The cry cut through the cold hospital courtyard like a blade through fog, sharp and desperate, carrying a fear too heavy for such a small chest to hold. And in that single moment, everyone who heard it felt the weight of something terribly wrong, because a little girl stood alone near the emergency entrance with tears streaking her cheeks, her hands trembling as she clutched a worn backpack, her eyes fixed on the glass doors that refused to open for the person she loved most in the world. Before this story goes any further, take a second to breathe in that image, because if you believe kindness still matters in a world that often looks away, if you believe second chances can change lives, then like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to this channel for more stories that remind us what humanity can still be. Her name was Lily, only 7 years old, with hair that never stayed tied and shoes that had seen too many hard pavements for someone her age, and that night she stood outside St. Augustine's Hospital watching the red lights flash and fade, as her mother sat inside an ambulance parked just beyond the sliding doors, barred from entry by rules that did not care about fear or poverty or love. The men in uniforms were not cruel, but they were firm, and to Lily, firm felt the same as heartless, because her mother, Anna, needed help now. Not after forms were filled, not after insurance details were verified, not after someone decided whether her pain was worthy of immediate attention. Anna was pale, her breath shallow, her hand weakly pressing against her side, and Lily could see all of it through the glass, could feel her own heart pounding like it wanted to escape her chest. Anna had always been strong in Lily's eyes, the kind of strong that did not shout or boast, the quiet strength of a woman who worked double shifts at a diner, who smiled even when her feet ached and her tips were short, who skipped meals so her daughter could eat, who taught Lily that even when life was unfair, you kept walking. That strength had carried them through nights in cheap motels, through mornings when the car barely started, through the humiliation of being turned away from places that demanded things they did not have. But that night, strength was slipping away from Anna, and Lily felt it like the ground giving way beneath her feet. The hospital's rules were rigid, shaped by years of policy and fear of liability, and while the staff moved with practiced urgency, there was a line they would not cross without authorization. Anna had no insurance, no immediate proof of coverage, and though she was clearly in pain, she was not yet deemed critical enough to override the system. To Lily, none of that mattered. All that mattered was that her mommy was hurting and she could not reach her, and the world felt impossibly large and indifferent as her sobs echoed off concrete walls. Across the street, the night rumbled with a different kind of presence, the deep, unmistakable growl of motorcycle engines rolling in low and slow, like distant thunder announcing a storm. A group of riders had pulled into a nearby lot, leather jackets catching the glow of streetlights, heavy boots hitting the pavement with a sound that made some people instinctively step back. They were members of the Hells Angels, passing through town after a long ride, stopping only to rest and refuel before moving on. To many, they were symbols of fear, of rebellion, of trouble best avoided, and even the security guards at the hospital cast wary glances in their direction. But one of the riders noticed the girl. He noticed because he had once been that kind of scared, though in a different way. And something about the way Lily stood there, so small against the glass, crying with a grief too old for her years, reached a place in him he rarely acknowledged. His name was Marcus, a man with a past heavy with mistakes, a man who had chosen the road when the world had offered him little else, a man whose reputation was built on toughness because that was how he had survived. Yet beneath the patches and scars was someone who understood what it meant to be powerless. Marcus watched as Lily's tears fell onto the pavement, saw how no one seemed able to bridge the gap between her fear and the help her mother needed, and without a word to his brothers, he began walking toward her. The others followed, not because they knew what he intended, but because loyalty was stitched into them as deeply as the patches on their backs. Their presence shifted the air, drew attention, caused whispers and stiffened postures, but they moved with a calm purpose that contrasted sharply with the chaos of the moment. Lily barely noticed them at first. Her world narrowed to the glass doors and the image of her mother beyond them, but when a shadow fell across her, she looked up, expecting another uniform, another refusal. Instead, she saw a line of faces weathered by sun and wind, eyes sharp but not unkind, and something in their stillness made her pause. She did not understand who they were or what they represented, only that they had stopped for her, that they were looking at her as if she mattered. The hospital staff noticed too, tension rippling through the entrance as security shifted uneasily, unsure how to respond to the sudden presence of the notorious club. Rules were rules, but rules felt smaller when faced with a group that did not look easily intimidated. Marcus did not raise his voice or make threats, did not need to. He simply stood there, a silent wall between Lily and the indifference of the system, and somehow that silence spoke louder than shouting ever could. Inside the ambulance, Anna's condition worsened, her pain sharpening, her vision blurring, and the paramedics exchanged looks that said time was no longer a luxury. The delay that had seemed procedural minutes ago now felt dangerous, and the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on everyone involved. The riders did not interfere physically, did not cross lines that would escalate the situation, but their presence was undeniable, a reminder that the world outside the hospital walls was watching, that this was no longer a quiet administrative decision. Marcus thought of his own mother, gone too soon because help had come too late, thought of the nights he had spent wishing someone, anyone, had stepped in when it mattered. He had joined the club looking for family, for a code that meant something in a life that had offered him little stability, and here, unexpectedly, was a chance to live by a different kind of code. One that had nothing to do with patches or reputation, and everything to do with doing what was right. The hospital administration was called, voices hushed but urgent, and policies were re-examined through the lens of a situation spiraling toward crisis. Liability gave way to humanity as a senior doctor made a decision that should never have taken this long, authorizing immediate admission and treatment regardless of paperwork. The doors slid open at last, and the stretcher rolled forward, Anna finally crossing the threshold into the care she needed. Lily's knees nearly buckled with relief as she watched her mother disappear down the corridor, and though fear still clung to her like a second skin, it was now mixed with hope, fragile but real. She was guided inside, given a seat, a blanket, a cup of warm juice, small comforts that felt monumental after the cold of waiting. The riders did not follow her in, but they remained outside, engines silent, watching the doors until they closed again, ensuring the story did not end halfway. Hours passed slowly, measured in ticking clocks and anxious breaths, until a doctor finally emerged with news that Anna would recover, that the condition had been serious but treatable, that intervention had come just in time. Relief washed through the waiting area, and Lily felt something. Inside her unclenched for the first time that night, tears returning but softer now, carrying gratitude instead of terror. When the riders eventually left, mounting their bikes and fading back into the night, few people noticed, and that seemed fitting. They had not come for recognition or praise, had not stayed to be thanked, because for them, the moment had already passed, sealed in the knowledge that they had made a difference when it counted. Marcus rode on with the wind against his face, feeling lighter than he had in years, reminded that even a life marked by rough choices could still hold moments of grace. Anna would later learn what had happened, piecing together the story from fragments, from the way staff avoided her eyes when she asked why the rules had suddenly changed, from the quiet way Lily described the men on motorcycles who had stopped for her. Gratitude filled her, deep and aching, and she carried it with her into every hard day that followed, a reminder that help can come from the most unexpected places. Life did not magically become easy for Anna and Lily after that night. Bills still came, work was still exhausting, and the road ahead remained uncertain, but something fundamental had shifted. Lily no longer felt quite so alone in the world, having learned that strangers could care, that kindness could break through walls built by fear and policy. Anna held on to that lesson too, letting it fuel her resilience when exhaustion threatened to overwhelm her. Stories like this do not end with perfect resolutions or sudden wealth, but with quieter victories, with the knowledge that humanity showed up when it mattered, that a child's cry did not vanish into the night unheard. It is in these moments, unseen and uncelebrated, that the true measure of people is revealed, not by their labels or reputations, but by their actions when no one is forcing them to care. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that compassion can appear in the most unlikely forms, then please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, And subscribe to this channel so more stories like this can continue to be told. Before this story ends, leave a comment below telling us where you are watching from, and whether you believe kindness can still change the world. Because somewhere tonight, another child may be standing in the cold, afraid and unheard, and somewhere, someone may be deciding whether to stop and help. And stories like this matter because they remind us that we can all choose to be that moment of light in someone else's darkness.